Welcome to the Success Sessions. We have the incredible Susie Moore here with us today. I'm so excited to be with her.
I'm excited too, Jessie. Woo!
Susie has been like a true rock star in my life. I've benefited from her teachings in many different contexts, both live and on this beautiful internet platform. And she is efficient in her teaching and powerful. I think she's one of the best at what she does. So just a little formal introduction. Susie Moore is a high performance coach, advisor to high growth startups in Silicon Valley and New York City. And her first book, What If It Does Work Out, I love that title, debuted as a #1 Amazon bestseller in women and business. And in that book, Susie shares secrets to transform your passion into cash, honed from her very successful career as a Fortune 500 sales director. She also built 3 startups, all of which were sold, the most recent of which for $405 million. I did not know that.
I owned the startup, but I was a very awesome part of it, I'll say.
That's amazing, amazing. So and this is part of how I know Susie. Susie's been featured on the Today Show, Oprah.com, Business Insider, the Huffington Post, Forbes, Time, Inc., Mindbody Green, and is the resident life coach and columnist for Greatest. Her insights have been shared by thought leaders including Arianna Huffington, Paulo, Coelho, and Spanx founder Sarah Blakely. What a freaking resume, Susie. And I know that that's just like the tip of the iceberg. I could just keep going. So I want to help people get access to you. Like, part of this series in the Success Sessions is helping people understand the truth and humanity of people that it's really easy to put on a pedestal because they are so visibly successful. And I think you're a perfect example of that. I have certainly done that in my own secret thoughts. So I would love to hear from you how you defined success as a child and how you were wrong.
Oh, and how I was wrong. Oh, that's such good questions, Jessie. So I think as a child, you kind of adopt traditional kind of points of view of success, right? So I guess, having money, being important, having people look up to you, I guess, making a contribution, those types of things, which I think all have their place completely. And I think that, we have these kind of, with our societies, we need to have order and we need to have goals and we need to, I guess, have ways of measuring what's good and what's bad. And so these traditions and I guess stereotypes do help somewhat. But I think that when it comes to, being wrong or being right, it's so completely personally directed. Like, as I get older, I just realize this more and more, that what's hell for one person is heaven for another person. What one person needs and desires can just be the complete opposite to somebody else. Like, some people want kids, some people don't. Some people want to live in a nice hot climate like Indonesia, some people don't. I mean, some people don't even want to be married. I mean, there are so many different definitions of it that I think it's important to question what your beliefs are as soon as you get the awareness to do that, which I think does come a bit later. But questioning what your beliefs are and then just thinking to yourself, is it true? This is important, this matters, is it true? And I think when you start asking yourself those questions, a lot can come up and it can surprise you. And I think that a lot of the things that were wrong for me I'm one of five girls. So I probably thought that I'd always have children, but I don't think that's what I want now. Sure. And also I feel as if, I always thought I had to have a job, and I thought that, I'd have to, make sure someone could pay me a paycheck, and I'd respect that man probably who would do that for me. And I just know that those things aren't true, and it's completely up to me. And success for me now is just defined by, how I feel every day, and am I having a good time? I put a lot of focus on fun and just enjoying myself, and I feel that puts me in a very strong attraction zone too.
Absolutely. I love this is brilliant. I think knowing that you value what's happening on the inside and the connection to how that shows up in your external, because I know you just showed me your view. You're living in Miami, looking at the ocean all day. I mean, you also have a very abundant and prosperous external experience. Yes. But what I hear you saying is that the real value that you place starts in the internal. Am I hearing that?
Oh, Jessie, completely. And look, I have a lovely view, and I have a very nice life. I can't complain, but it's not my life that makes me happy or my view. In fact, I was speaking to my best friend last night who lives in Australia. We don't get to see each other all that much, but I said to her, I'd rather be in a car with you in a gross car park with a rotting fish in the back than on a beach with some other friend in Mexico. You know, like, it's not the place, right? It's just not. It's what on the inside matters, you know, and what's really going to bring joy. So yeah, I mean, I think we can get confused sometimes. It's very easy, and there's a lot that can enhance your experience, but it's not enough on its own. It has to be you. How
did you discover that understanding?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good question, right? I think I've been a self-help junkie for so long. So I'm 35. Self-help book when I was 15. One of the most popular articles I wrote was, you know, I've read over 500 self-help books, and this is what you need to know. Like, these are the 5 lessons or whatever it was. And I think that there are just these universal truths that you're either lucky to find out or not. Like, some people find it in religion, right, which can be interpreted in lots of different ways. Some people are lucky to have parents who can, you know, give them some lessons in terms of, you know, how we create our own happiness. But for me, I fell into self-help really young, and I'm so grateful, because the first book I ever read in this field is called The Magic of Thinking Big. And which you may or may not have heard of. It's written in the 50s by a man who was like long dead by the time I got my hands on it, but I still hear his voice. He's like, no excuses, doesn't matter where you're from. And I grew up, like, you know, on welfare. My family were on welfare. I was really ashamed, you know, when I was a kid, having free school lunches, and we'd move around a lot. And because of my mum and dad's relationship, which was sometimes domestic violence, we lived in different shelters. I was just like, this isn't my life. In my heart, even as a kid, I'm like, this won't be me. I'm going to have a great life. But I needed some tools to get there. And I realized, I guess, after developing, you know, learning about self-help, developing these tools that I just use again and again, and they're available to everybody. But I just think you need exposure to some of them.
Well, that was my question. I had no idea that was your background. And so it makes me wonder, how did you discover the magic of thinking big? Like, where did that book come into your life?
Yeah, I think this is the thing. If you're curious sometimes, I think if you're open, that's the door. You have to have a little bit of faith, a bit of curiosity, and then the universe can work with you, right? Otherwise, the universe is really limited if you're closed off and kind of negative. So I'm naturally, I think, optimistic, right? And when I saw this book in a secondhand shop, it was like Magic of Thinking Big, how to, and then it lists some things, right? It's like how to be successful, how to do this, how to do that, can't even remember. But I was like, well, this just sounds good, you know? And then I remember I showed it to a friend of mine, and he was like, oh, that sounds so American. Like, oh, you can hear like, oh yeah, you know, think big. And I'm like, I really like it. I really like it. You know, I love it. And I read it so many times, and I started practicing like the principles. Even in my part-time job, I worked in a department store, and I just completely agreed with every word, committed to it, and just chose it. So look, there was a bit of luck there, but I think that, you know, luck in the end is just you being open and being, you know, willing. And I just truly just, you know, kept going from there, wanted to learn more and more and more, because I started to realize that life was just absolutely our creation, and that we're very powerful creators.
One of the things that I have found really fascinating in this interview series is the things that my guests sort of do naturally. And it stands out to me because they're not necessarily the things that I do naturally, but it's amazing, like, when the default setting is one that is so in alignment with what it is that we're trying to do. I think that in you, anyone watching this interview will see and feel your optimism, your curiosity, your resilience. I want to say resilience. Even in that story with your friend early on, I think so many of us would hear that kind of criticism, like, oh, that's so American or whatever. It's so easy to hear that kind of feedback, especially early on, and be like crushed by it internally, or discouraged, or somehow take it in. And so I'm fascinated by I'm going to actually say it in a different way now. I think it's your clear boundaries. Like, you're just very, very willing to let other people do their life their way. You're going to do it yours. And that's what I'm curious, like, how did you get that way, Susie?
You know, I haven't had it explained that way, but I think it's really true. I mean, there's so much that I mean, and look, it's very easy, you know, working in coaching, what we call a victim loop a lot, right? We're all in some form of victim loop most of the time, right? You know, like, someone did something bad to me, that means that, you know, I'm a victim, or, you know, luck isn't on my side, or I wasn't born with this or that, or blessed. And I just think that this victim loop doesn't come naturally to me. I just think that, you know, to be born like as a healthy person, like, you know, being able to think for myself, and being able to have access to books and access to things that can help me, I feel like really that's enough. And I think sometimes we focus so much on what's wrong or what's not working, and what we focus on is always expanding. And I do think, based on the research that I've done around happiness, that we are born with a certain optimism set point. And I do think that mine is on the higher end. But I can go down here. I mean, I can go into spirals. I mean, I've been divorced when I was young. I mean, I've had all sorts of things that I've, been through. But my bounce back rate is high. My resilience is high. But that's something that you choose all the time. It's not like, oh, yeah, got it. I'm confident now. Sweet. Like my life is going to be easy. It's always, right? Because I'm rejected all the time. I hear, nose back all the time. I'm in the media a lot. I'm also, but what people don't see is how much I'm rejected, right? How many book rejections I got from my next. I mean, all these things, they're true and I love talking about them, but they're not what get the attention, right? And so typically, I think that it's so up to us. We are so powerful that we can also choose misery. we have so much freedom. We can choose, to be really sour about everything. And that's just not how I want to live my life. And I just choose to do what feels good. And I choose thoughts that feel good.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Can you give us a little more detail about this? I think this is an area of mastery that everyone watching can learn from you on. Yeah. I thought we will go into publicity too. I really want people to hear from you about that. But I actually think this is a crucial foundation even for bringing into publicity. Like part of your success in the media, I'm sure, is because of this same resilience. So when you have a down moment, when you kind of reach a fork in the road and you could go into misery, or you could go into, talking down about yourself or whatever it is, how do you pivot in those moments? How do you even become aware that that's happening?
Oh, it's such a good question. And you're right that there is mastery here and it's available to anyone who wants it. So essentially your emotions are always data, right? They give you feedback on what you're thinking. And so when when you physically do something and it hurts, it's like, stop. Right? I feel like our mind is the same way. So if something feels bad, it's like, oh, stop. Like, what is it I'm thinking that's wrong? There's something that's, getting me off track here. And if I get some bad news, if I get a disappointment, if something just really doesn't go my way, if I'm really just, say I have my hopes up about something and I feel, really good about something, but it's, taken away or whatever it may be, first of all, I look at the big picture. Right? So, no one thing really can really do so much damage. I also think that you can have a sense of humor about a lot of things. And I think, sometimes when I'm helping people get out of their kind of slumps, is I'm like, haven't you been through this before? Like, hasn't this happened in some capacity before or something similar? Weren't you okay? So it's kind of having just like a bigger point of view on the whole thing. Sometimes I think we're just so, myopic in terms of how we interpret things. Like, my life's over. Someone broke up with me. My life's over. Or I didn't get the deal. My life's over. My apartment didn't sell. The contract fell through. My life's over. It's like, really? Well, you're really lucky to already own an apartment. And it's great that you've known love, right? There'll be more of that. So I just think that perspective really helps. And then just when you start to feel bad, to just distract yourself and to go a bit more, to think more about just something a bit more general, right? Not to be so focused on something that's miserable, which can really lead to this downward spiral, which just gets worse and worse with momentum. So I just prefer to, take a bit of a step back, think of the bigger picture, and know that other feelings, other thoughts are always available to me.
So good. I really hear you very articulately referencing, at least in my memory, teachings from Abraham Hicks. Going general, zooming out. These are...
I have some favorites actually. So
oh, great.
Abraham Hicks is one of my favorites. So is Byron Katie. So is Eckhart Tolle. Right? They're three. Also, I'm playing around with different kind of thought leaders always because I love to read books, but I also love Wayne Dyer and Marilyn Williams' work too. So I feel like they're actually all the same. They just say things in different ways. So, and I feel like, and they're all available. You can access this stuff online for free.
Totally. You know what? It just reminds me both what you're saying and the reference to Marianne Williamson. I just recently got just the teacher's manual. It's like this really scary. I love that I found that just teachers. And in the teacher's manual, the first chapter is who are the teachers. And it's literally anyone who says yes to the call, anyone who says I'm raising my hand. So it's when you say it's available to all of us, like the teachings confirm that in all traditions. And then the next chapter is who are the students, or who are the pupils, maybe they call them.
Yes.
And the answer to that is that they arise together. And the reason that they arise together is because each teacher, although they're teaching the same teaching, has their own language, their own flavor, their own medicine, basically. And so the students who are meant to receive it in that way arise together. So I reference that a lot. And the thing that you just shared, I just felt like, oh yes, that's so important to understand, that we don't have to choose. We don't have to really do too much to sort out like who's right or who's wrong. Like the teaching is the teaching all the time. The truth is the truth all the time.
The truth is the truth all the time. There are some fundamentals with it, I think, and everyone, expresses it differently, approaches it differently. But I still feel like I'm waiting to learn more. Like I don't know anything yet. Like I know a few good things, right? But like what else? Like what else is there to discover? I'm always just so open to it, and I think that is also a real source of pleasure and joy, right? It's like when Dyer said, no one knows enough to be cynical, right? Like we don't know enough, right? And so I just feel like there's just, in this gorgeous world that we're in this like short lifetime, there's just so much to learn and to listen to and to just enjoy. And with the purpose always just being that you're feeling good, that you're having a good time, that you're just light and your energy is just, isn't dense and it's not keeping you down. It's allowing you to always be allowing yourself to always be lifted.
I mean, if people weren't inspired coming onto the call, they are now. Yeah. It reminds me that Wayne Dyer quote reminds me of something that David Nagel says a lot. David Nagel is one of my mentors, and he says, people would rather be right than have what they want. And I'm just connecting that back to some of the things that you were talking about before. When we get myopic and we look at something that's not going well and we're like, oh, my life is over, it's like we build momentum. And there's you were talking about the victim loop. It's like, in order to sustain that loop, we have to believe that we're right about our position. And then we start fighting for it and we activate it more. And then that's the thing that stops us from growing, changing, transforming, moving.
Yeah, but it's like, great, that thing that you're stuck in, you get to keep it. It's like, think about it, I mean, yeah, when it comes to, our minds, I think that they're fascinating, and there's so much, that we can question, and I think there's so much that we can just, release. And when we question our thoughts, we don't accept them as facts, then there's just all this freedom available to you. This is why Byron Katie's work is so great. Because question everything, like, is it true? And I mean, that's where I think so much freedom comes, but sometimes I think we don't want it to, because we want to be lazy. We'd rather be like, yeah, well, didn't get that advantage, so that's why I am. And that is a safer place to be than someone who's taking risks and being courageous. And so sometimes we actually want to keep our limitations, I think, out of fear.
Yeah, better to like stay in our comfort zone where we think we know everything. Then I think that's a really important, like, I can feel the two halves of my brain kind of like reprogramming with what you're saying to connect. Because I think everyone listening to you will resonate with the value of curiosity and being open to new possibilities. I think that the strangeness, the kind of like tongue twister feeling that I have in my brain around it, is that to bring that in moments where you're feeling shitty or stuck or rejected, to be able to come into those moments and say, actually, I have no idea what's going on here, really. Like, maybe my life is over, but probably not. I'm still breathing right now. I wonder what else could be happening.
Do you know what? It's true. And sometimes life isn't meant to be always up, right? And I'm certainly not always up. And when I have my down moments, and they can come as a shock sometimes, because life can be going well, but I just won't feel good for a while, I will just allow that, right? Because if I'm going to resist it and be like, okay, what 10 things can I be grateful for right now, right? That's not always going to work. Sometimes it will. But if it doesn't work, then I'll be like, all right, I'm just going to feel like, like crap for a while. Allow that to be. And who cares? Like, so what? The world won't end if I have 2 cheeseburgers in one day and watch Mindhunter. Like, who cares? So what? Let me do it. Like, what's the big deal? And then to bring in some self-compassion and be like, you know what, you're doing a great job. And it's normal to feel down sometimes. And then ironically, I find that whenever I do that, then it passes sooner because I'm not so serious about it. I'm bringing just the lightness in by allowing it.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I love about you, Susie, is how quick you are to sort of turn your own experience into something that can help other people.
Oh, thank you.
Do you know, like, have you always done that, or did you kind of sort of shift from inner exploration to outer service at a certain point in your life?
Well, I think that if there's something that you know that's useful, right? Like, I think that it's the most important and fun thing to share that, right? To help a little bit with somebody suffering. And suffering is so much in the mind, right? And if I have some tools around that, some things that can be helpful, maybe even funny, right? Then I think that's my most important work. I think it's my most important work. I get beyond, beyond expectations sometimes, which is, I mean, I just think just more proof that we all need this stuff. We all need help. We all need to help each other. I've learned from so many people. And we all need different types of teachers and different types of methods. And I think there's also a generation now of newer teachers, you know, who have to emerge because we have to have people who are alive and teaching things in fresh ways. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, helping people solve their problems or their perceived problems and feeling better is just, I think, the most important work there is.
I think this is the perfect segue to sort of shifting into some of your media expertise. And I'm curious how the story you just shared connects to beginning to write for mainstream media and kind of starting your side hustle.
Yeah. So I was working, as you mentioned, at a Fortune 500 company. So my background is in programmatic video software, very sexy, right? But I like my job and I was very grateful for it. But I knew that the kind of stuff that I do now, like Jessie, it's what, you know, it's what I'm meant to be doing. I've just always felt it. I think we always know too what we're meant to be doing. Sometimes it scares us, but I started my side hustle as a life coach. I found out in New York that they even existed. I didn't really know. I did some research. And then as I, you know, started that business, I was like, how am I going to find people, right? How are people going to like hire me and know that I'm good? You know, there's certainly other coaches and I didn't want to go to like networking events and like, you know, bring my business cards. I mean, I'd done that a lot in my career and I just knew, this is one thing that I really believe. I believe that when something's meant to happen, it can be easy. Right, so if there's a desire, then there is a path of ease that is waiting for you. We just kind of build up all these walls because we don't have much faith. And I was like, there has to be an easier way. It's going to happen for me. And, you know, as I was in my cubicle, like, you know, at work many times, I was reading websites like Mind Body Green. And then I realized that some of the articles weren't written by staff at Mind Body Green. It was like written by some woman who was like, wrote a piece about, you know, whatever it may be. And then she was like, click here for a one-on-one session on, you know, tantric methods or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe I can do that. Maybe I could just, you know, put my hand in the ring. And I did. Like, I submitted my first piece to Mind Body Green, like within a couple of days of noticing that you could even do that. And 2 weeks later, it was published. And that was my first piece of now, I mean, hundreds. And it's really set my business up. Like, I have a great list. I can make great offers to that list. And the best thing is I only write about what matters to me and then the right people find me. So I write a lot about confidence, about, you know, myths around happiness. I write a lot about, you know, mistakes that we can make that can, you know, be sabotaging us. I mean, all sorts of stuff, but it's kind of really largely underpinned by confidence. That's really like the message beneath everything. But that way the right people find me, you know, and I feel like it is easy because I just share my stories. I go, this is something that, you know, this is what happened. This is my takeaway. Click here if you want to know more about that. You know, and I feel like there was just ease with that. And I've still found no better method to really grow a business than that. It's hugely credible, hugely authoritative. You get access to huge media audiences. You get to share your message. You get to make an impact whether or not people sign up for you. There's just this invisible work that you're doing all the time by being generous, by sharing your information and your stories. And I believe that, you know, sharing your stories is a very generous thing to do. If that's what you're supposed to do. And yeah, and then just putting yourself out there and letting yourself be discovered. And I think that, you know, once you start doing that, if it feels good, then the returns can be really, really big.
You know, I love so many parts of that story, but the thing that really like hit me in the heart was this idea of being discovered, which I just think I think so many people resonate with, and I think that frankly, like anyone who's listening to you and interested in media, that's part of what they want. That's part of what they fantasize about. And what I noticed was that you didn't say just getting discovered, you said putting yourself out there and getting discovered. And I would love to hear you talk more about how you balance those two things, because the getting discovered, I think we're taught often that that's a passive thing. Like you just cross your fingers, close your eyes, maybe even plug your ears and pray, you know, it's like, and then it'll happen or not. And the way that you talk about it, it's much more active. There's more agency. So I'd love to hear you talk about the relationship between putting yourself out there and getting discovered.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. It's like that kind of old story, right? I can't remember where it's from, which book, but it's like about the guy who wants to win a lottery. You know this one?
I don't think so.
Like he goes to the statue every day to pray, and he's like,
oh yeah.
He's like, please, let me win the lottery. And then like the statue after years is so sick of hearing him, and he comes to life and says, just please buy a ticket, right? And I think this is it, right? I mean, we have to participate in our life, right? We have to be active when it comes to manifesting just the opportunities that are there for us, for all of us. It's actually never been easier to be successful. I feel like we have all these tools that our parents didn't have, you know, their parents certainly didn't have. And it's so much is free. So much information is free. Like there are so many things that we can do that we're really like the first generation who can do it. And to not take advantage of that, I mean, it's rude, really. You know, I mean, there's so much available for us. And I feel as if when it comes to putting yourself out there, if you do it in lots of different ways, you never actually even know what's going to work. If you just keep telling the truth and there's an old saying that what comes from the heart goes to the heart, right? So I think if you just keep doing things from your heart, then other hearts will be moved, and then things just come together for you. It's almost like this gorgeous mystery, but you just have to, you know, be participating in your life, like be willing to be part of it, like be active. Actually, Ram Dass said, you can do it meaning anything. Like you can do it like it's a great weight on you, or you can do it like it's part of the dance. And I just feel like I enjoy what I'm doing a lot of the time. I'm just having a good time. I feel like day to day I'm having a good time. And when I'm just, you know, the words are flowing and I'm just like, oh, I've got an idea, I'm going to reach out to this person for a collaboration, or, you know, I should really write that piece for, you know, whatever. I'm having fun while I'm doing it. And I'm just telling the truth. And I feel like I get rewarded for that because it's supposed to be easy.
Yes, I love that. And I love the circling back to the beginning and you know, when you talked about your own definition of success, that really the truth is you value feeling good, you value having fun. So of course it makes sense that would be your kind of litmus test almost, or your guiding light. It's like, which direction is fun? Let's go that way.
Yeah, isn't that where you want to be leaning all the time? Isn't that like your joy is your power, right? Like you want to always just be leaning into it. That's where the ideas are. It's where the magic is. I feel as if it's like almost universe saying, yeah, this way, like come this way, you know, and I just keep going. I'm like, all right, I'm there. Let me get my high heels. Yes. Well, and you so embody that your joy is your power. What would you say to someone who sees you or reads you and is just like, that's great for Susie, but that's not me. I can't do that. Well, I'd say, okay. Well, you know, no one's for everyone. And I think that's cool. And that's absolutely cool. And I'd say you can also always come back.
Yeah. You know, you went in a different direction than I was thinking, but it's at the heart of what we're talking about also, because I think you're responding to how, or just demonstrating how you respond to people not resonating with you. Mm-hmm. I think it's more like if somebody feels that they see you and they're like, of course Susie's joyful. Mm-hmm. Look at her life. Look at how successful she is. I don't have that. Therefore I can't do what Susie's doing. That kind of thing. How would you encourage someone who's doing that?
That's a victim loop already, like identified, right? It's like, because already if someone says something like that, the feeling would be, I want something that I can't have, maybe, right? Like if someone has the like the feeling of saying that would work for someone, that wouldn't work for me. If that's a regular observation, cool, find what works for you. But if it's like, you know, if there's negativity there, it's like, okay, well, that's nothing to do with me, you know, and that's why I don't take things personally. So I'd question it, and I'd say, okay, well, what else then? I mean, why not? Like, why not? What else? What will work? Something will work. There are a million options out there. Like, we're very blessed. So I would think that there's a method for everyone. There are different types of, you know, solutions for everyone else, for self-help and self-development and so forth. So it's just good to find the right one for you. And I think, again, just to be open-minded, because the universe can't work with a closed door. If you're closed, there's nothing, right? It's you may as well be dead, right? It's like, if nothing can like, you know, enter you, then it's going to be very limited what you receive. Versus if you just, you know, open up a little bit, right, and just try different things. You know, there truly, like, there's so much more available now, and more than ever. I'm still discovering more and more teachers that I feel as if it'll always just come back to you. It's never going to be the resources, the options, like what you know, what doesn't work, for example. It's just about probably you and your feeling of and your receptivity.
I love it. Susie, you're amazing. You're a gift to the world. I'm like so honored and grateful to have this time with you. I have many, many, many more questions, but I think that this is actually a perfect moment, because I think that people at this juncture are feeling that yes or like, I want more kind of feeling. I certainly am. So I would love for you to tell all of us, like, how can we spend more time with you? How do we learn from you more? What's the best way to stay connected?
Yes, thank you, Jessie. I've also really enjoyed this anytime with you. So you can check out, if you want to get your message out there, and if media is something that you would like for your business, or increasingly I see people, even Jessie, just sharing their stories without a business context, just because they want to, you know, they've learned something and there's something they want to share. You can head over to getrockstarpr.com. I have a free workshop which tells you how to access media. And then my website is just full of different free confidence resources, which is susie-moore.com. Susie-moore.com.
And we'll put both of those links in the description box below, so you guys can just click. It'll be so easy.
Yeah, easy. That's the word.
Susie, is there anything that this viewing community can do to help you, cheer you on?
I would just say I mean, this is kind of what I always come back to. I say that the most generous, awesome thing that you can do is to live a happy life and to elevate the energy of those around you, because we're all connected. And if we do that, then I'll also feel it wherever I am.
So good. It's so good. It's so good. Okay. Mutual love fest. Just like
so much love.
may everyone who has been with us in watching the recording for a minute or the half hour, just take this juicy, positive joy power. And I'm picturing like the Care Bear thing, right? Like beam it out into the world. You guys are amazing. Susie, you're amazing. Thank you so, so much for being here.
Thank you, Jessie. Bye-bye.
Everything you want already.